welcome. I'm so excited to chat with you and to welcome you to the University for Life Coach Training faculty. Tell the people a little bit about your background, and I would love for people just to hear the depth of your experience and your perspective of what this will do to lend to the richness of the university.
Yeah, so I am so excited to be a part of the faculty, and I'm very, very excited about this training program. It is really one of a kind. So, my name is Rae McDaniel. I'm a licensed therapist, I'm a gender specialist, and a certified sex therapist and coach based out of Chicago. I have a group therapy practice that focuses on serving marginalized communities, in particular, queer communities. I also have an online group coaching community called Genderfuck, where I work with trans, non binary, and gender questioning folks to transition their gender with less suffering and more ease.
Ooh, you just said, we're going to have you teach some business classes to help these coaches succinctly say what they do and the problem they solve as well.
Thank
Um,
you.
so, when you think about your life experience that led you to your profession,
Mhm.
what is it about this training that excites you, that makes you think like, wow, this is new, different, and needed?
Well, I'm a non binary person myself. I use they, them pronouns. And I got into the therapy and coaching field because I saw my friends at a very tiny little college in the middle of the woods in East Texas struggle with coming out
Yeah.
and seeing what it was like to try to do that and navigate that process in a super oppressive environment. So that's what led me to the field and what I'm doing in Chicago and online. I'm so excited about this coaching program because I think that most marginalized communities, and I can speak specifically for my own experience as a queer person,
Mhm.
don't generally see themselves in either the language that coaches are using or in the coaches themselves. And
Mhm.
so I'm excited for both of those aspects in this program to bring not only more diverse training so that coaches are able to really speak to the queer community, the trans community, in their work, but also bring in more opportunity for queer and trans coaches to get training that actually reflects them.
Yeah. I that's that's my heart. That's why I'm so excited about it. And personally, my daughter Cora is queer, and from the age of 9, she has been dragging me into knowledge, understanding, and the light, if you will. Not that I wasn't ever open or receptive, but that there's just things as a heterosexual woman that I don't know. And she even today, she'll call me, FaceTime me, and say, "Take that off of your Instagram right this minute." And I'll be like, "What? What did I do? What did I say?" And then she'll give me like a 60-second explanation of how my privilege blinds me from understanding that what I just said is damaging in some way. And
Yeah.
so it's important to me as the founder of this university that, as I um, grow in my allyship, that I surround myself and coaches who go through this training to learn from people smarter than me, of all different backgrounds. And so I couldn't be more delighted about what you bring to the table, because I can um, do things like read everything I can read, have all
Mhm.
the discussions I can have, and shift my perspective. But at the end of the day, I do not have the depth of knowledge, experience, life experience, and personal identity that you have. And so I'm just thrilled about it. Now, my question for you is, I've been asking all of the faculty members this pop question.
Okay.
Um, if I were to say, Rae, you get to teach anything you want for the university, what would be the top
Ooh.
2 topics that you would pick?
Oh, that's such a good question. I think the number one thing would be affirming language for the trans community.
Mhm.
if you can get the affirming language down and understand using people's right names and right pronouns, I
Mhm.
honestly think that you are about 80% of the way there, and definitely 80% above the people that don't take the time to do that. And
Right.
that is so incredibly affirming. And it is also the number one flag that you are a safe person for queer and trans folks. So if
Mm,
you have the language right on your website, if people see themselves reflected in that language,
mhm,
people are going to be more likely to trust you and
mhm.
to understand that you have done the work to get that language right. So
Right.
that would be number one.
Okay. I love
Number,
it.
yeah, number two, like I said, I work a lot with trans people specifically, but I
Mhm,
think the larger, broader message that I have is that gender has really boxed so many of us in.
mhm,
Whether you are cisgender, which means that you identify with the sex that you are assigned at birth, or whether you are gender expansive or trans, we have all, from the moment that we are conceived, really been put into a box around gender. And so I would love to help folks break down some of those assumptions about what does it mean to live in the body that you have been given, and
mhm.
help them expand on that in a way that really feels good for them and brings them freedom. And I
Hmm.
think that's something that's applicable for everybody.
Yeah. I mean, it really is. And I think now even online when I see things like a gender reveal party, I think, wow, like I don't know that this is what's your opinion, by the way, on a gender reveal party? I look at that knowing what I know and think like this isn't a great idea anymore, guys.
They're annoying and obnoxious to me, frankly. I
Hey,
really hate them.
and so I think there are so many, you're so right, there are so many things as a cisgender heterosexual woman, like even um a little girl carries so many issues just by being a girl, and raised a girl, and
Mhm.
so anyone taking this training can really learn how to, like you said, move to freedom with that.
Yeah.
um I when my daughter was in middle school, she had a good friend who came out as
Mhm.
trans, and fifth grade, middle of Indiana, um, middle school's
Challenging.
rough. Yeah, right. And unfortunately, the school therapist told this child that he was just confused.
Mm.
And I saw firsthand, because he spent a lot of time at my house. My
Yeah.
daughter was really the only friend that didn't drop him,
Yeah.
and um, as a result, we became a safe space for this child.
Yeah.
And I remember my daughter was so just incensed that this school therapist would say such a thing, that she uh in middle school, if you have an issue you can make an appointment with the school counselor, and so she
Yeah.
made up some issue she wanted to talk to the school counselor about, and used her time to basically say like, this is not okay and you've done damage. I mean, she was using
That's
words like that in the
amazing.
fifth grade.
Yeah.
um and the challenge that gender rules present to
Mhm.
our people. I think any coach going through coach training is going to have their whole world expanded and become so much
Mhm.
richer, by learning from someone like you, who has like, this is what you do, this is who you are, and this is what you do, and to feel slightly more equipped, probably not even slightly, but dramatically more equipped to work with someone who is going through this. And I just, um, I think about the impact that that can have on our industry and that
Mhm.
impact that that can have on the world. What do you hope um, the impact you have is on coaches who go through training?
I would love to be able to have the impact of training coaches to be able to provide affirming services for trans, non binary, gender questioning folks so that our community has more resources.
Hmm.
There aren't that many coaches out there who really have that language and that expertise. And I think the more that we are creating just general knowledge around that, the more resourced marginalized communities are going to be. And
Hmm.
that is a plus for everybody when we can create freedom for all and not just freedom for some.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm really hoping to do. And I know that people have such good intentions. And I think they feel really intimidated
Yeah.
by, say, the trans community, the queer community. They don't want to say something that's offensive. But what that does is it creates distance. And
Hmm.
so if I can work to close that distance so that people feel comfortable and equipped to have these conversations, even knowing that they're not going to get it perfect all the
Right.
time,
Right.
and giving themselves permission to not be perfect. I want to close that gap so that this community does not feel intimidating. It just feels like another part of their work that they can have an impact with, and a community that they feel that they have access to.
Right. Like a really safe place to learn. And I do think
Mhm.
that that's so important in general, a life skill, but particularly with these issues Erica Hines says, be humble and ready to fumble.
I
Um,
love that quote.
I do too, because I mean, just like I said, my daughter watches my social media like a hawk. And she and Erica too. But Cora is much more likely to be like, no, like take it down.
Yeah,
And like I'm like, okay, tell me so I can know and do better. So it's
yeah,
like just being willing to like be in the conversation, be in the classroom learning so that we can all, right? Like, because you're not expecting any of us to get this perfectly.
no, of course not. And
Yeah,
that's
because
not
we're
what
not
it
going
means
to.
to be affirming. No,
Yeah.
it means that you're getting in that arena, if you want to use Brene Brown language, and getting dirty and falling down and just getting back up and trying again.
And I really think, my intention, my commitment is to have the best trained coaches out there. And
Mhm.
that means like to me, that means you must have diversity, inclusion, and equity training.
Yeah,
And, end of story, full stop. So I'm super pumped to have you on board. I appreciate your time and I can't
I'm
wait
excited
to
to be here.
watch your classes.
I'm excited to be a part. Thanks for having me.